Hello, and welcome to St. Louis on Stage, where we celebrate the artists, companies, and audiences who make the St. Louis theater community such an extraordinary place to create. Now, before we begin, we want to offer a huge thank you to the entire St. Louis theater community for the incredible support you've shown St. Louis on Stage. Every share, every comment, every conversation, and every new person who discovers what we're doing helps us continue shining a light on the remarkable work happening on stages all across the region. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to St. Louis on Stage, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming conversations. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by guest host Sarah Holt, and we are delighted to welcome Cassidy Flyn from Rugburn Theater, who is here to talk with us about Stay a While and Rugburn Theater. Cassidy, welcome to the show.
Right
There we
on.
go.
Thanks for having me, Troy. Thanks,
So
Sarah.
happy to have you. How you doing, Sarah?
Doing all right. I'm so excited to be joining y'all. This is such a needed thing in the community for so long.
Oh my gosh, it is. It is. And I don't want to belabor that point, but I'm just so excited. And I'm excited everybody's excited because it's just going to make our community smaller. Oh, so and I counted, this is a question for both of you guys. Can you tell me how many area theaters you think there might be?
Oof.
Companies, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Any guess?
I'm going to put it in the 70s.
I was gonna say 70s to 80s. Yeah.
96.
Wow. Far out.
And
Just
and
one
when
more.
we think of that, and then you think to try to name them, I couldn't get close. I
Yeah.
probably couldn't name more than 20 or 25. So there's just a lot of theater out there in St. Louis, which is fantastic. And speaking of that, Cassidy, you have been in just a few shows in the area.
Just
Oh
a
my
few.
gosh, just a few. I'm gonna have you expand on this, but we've got the Rep, St. Louis Shakespeare Festival, New Jewish Theater, Metro Theater Company, State Ensemble Theater, Mustard Seed Theater, and I'm already getting tired. Like, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
like five more, and then it still says and more. So, um, obviously, you love doing theater. What draws you to a different company or what draws you to a show?
Ooh, I mean, first and foremost, the people. I think one of the things that's amazing about this town is this is, and maybe I'm biased, and maybe it's because it's the town I know the most about, but this is the most generative, supportive, and expansive like theater community that I think there ever is. And so one of the, I mean, I know Sarah, I'm sure everyone can agree with this who's watching, is that doing plays in St. Louis, doing theater in St. Louis means constantly making new friends and building relationships with new people. And so I go to the theater for the people and for the connectedness to other people. So that's the number one reason.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, you guys go way back. Sarah, how did you meet Cassidy?
How did we meet? I
This
think
is the what?
I think it was probably just I meet so many people and say, we've been in the same room so many times. I
Yes.
already know who you are. One of the earliest things I think I remember seeing you do is the STL Fringe party at the Kerr Foundation, where you burned an effigy in the street as Time from A Winter's Tale.
Wow. Wow. See, you remember that, and I did not remember that. Yes, I mean, now I remember it. Wow, that was ages ago. What fun! But you're right, Sarah. This is the thing. You spend enough time in this town, and you just like find yourself in this same room with the same people over and over and over again. So yeah, that would have been like 2016 or 2016, 10
Oh
years
my
ago.
gosh. Wow, that's so cool. So cool. I have so many things, Cassidy, I want to ask you about. I mean, so you do all of it, right? Act, sing, dance, and write.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay. So you got to pick one. Desert Island talent. That's all you can do. They don't, for some reason on this island, you can't do the others. So
Fair enough. I guess if I'm on a desert island, I think I got it right. I don't know. I think that's got to be my outlet. Assuming, is this a desert island where I'm alone, or am I with people?
oh, I don't know. That's a good your pick.
Okay.
Your pick. Does it change if there's nobody there? Right, because there's no audience maybe, and then if there are people, then what do you do?
Maybe it's still writing. Yeah, I guess every desert island needs a playwright so that
Yeah.
we can be the traveling bards in our post-apocalyptic universe. So I think playwright. Yeah,
And if you
Absolutely.
write your own show, who's going to stop you from acting and singing and dancing?
that's exactly right.
Absolutely. And you won't get any, well, if, yeah, you'd think they would like any theater at any quality, but
Yeah.
so okay, so this is a question I'm just going to put to both of you right now because it's totally veering, but in our last conversation, as we talked about some shows that were coming up and what were going on, does it feel like there's a bit of a renaissance going on in the area? I did theater decades ago because I'm old, but there was some great theater then. That's when I came back to this. I was like, this community still feels like that because I hear of something. I'm like, who's doing that? I've never heard of them. Um, do you feel there's a bit of a renaissance, not just in like the number, but the quality of the theater just seems to keep being compounded? Any thoughts, Sarah?
I'd say definitely, especially in certain areas, original work is really seeing an explosion. I've seen just this summer, I think I've seen at least 4 or 5 premiere works, and they're getting full productions, not just like
Staged
we'll let you
reading.
do a single night in a bar side room as our staged
Right.
reading festival, which that's how it started. And that's wonderful that that was offered because that's how we got here.
Right.
But I think St. Louis theater companies are taking St. Louis playwrights seriously now. And that hasn't always been the case. There was a time period when there was a thought that you had to get a stamp of approval from somewhere outside of St. Louis, whether that was hiring all of your actors from New York or bringing in outside directors or just like throwing scraps to the St. Louis playwrights and saving the real plays for the main stage. That's gone away. We're seeing a full acknowledgement of the fact that you can get the best of the best in St. Louis too.
Yeah, that's magnificent. And Cassidy, as a playwright, what are your thoughts on that? But also just in general of a seeming renaissance of production quality and
Totally. I couldn't agree more with Sarah. I mean, I happen to be one of the beloved, or rather, I happen to be one of the acolytes of the great Courtney Bailey, who is a dear friend, and who I've had the pleasure of to be in like a lot of her new works in the last 4 or so years. And I think she's a great example of somebody who at some point in the post-COVID years was doing a lot of writing about stories and people and in ways that maybe we hadn't necessarily seen from theater in quite a while. I think that a lot of times when people who aren't necessarily theater people think about the theater, they think about like the 20th century great American playwrights. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, they're all great. And also like, why do I necessarily care? But when you have people in this town writing about Brontes having a house party and the Romanovs having a yard sale and teenagers in Boston having a slumber party with Emily Dickinson, like I think what Sarah also spoke to in terms of just like, or I think this speaks to what Sarah said about like the incredible output of new work and the credible support of new work is that it is new work that feels fresh in like it's specifically in terms of like media and generation. Like I think a lot of people, like a lot of Gen Xers and millennials, are going out to the theater these days and feeling very seen in some of the plays that are being produced.
Yes.
So I think that contributes to it.
That's magnificent. I love what both of you guys had to say. Well, and I know, let's see, Glut's coming up, Confetti Kids. We had on the author of In the Moment that was performed at the Fringe. And of course, we have a production coming up, Stay a While, which I believe we're going to have you on later. But what triggered you for this story? What was the beginning of that?
Yeah, I started working on this play in the fall of 2024, got really serious about it in the spring of 25. And then in this time last year, I started doing some readings. Sarah came to the very first ever reading of Stay a While in my living room and got to participate in some Liz Lerman critical response with me and helped me really shape this play into what it's become. Stay a While, I guess I always knew that I wanted to do a solo show. I've never done a solo show before. So like, that was like my first way in, was like, I know I want to do this thing because I think as an actor, this would be an incredible like risk and like opportunity to endeavor into a solo show. And I knew that I wanted to write something that was in some ways autobiographical, but also just incorporated a lot of things that I knew I wanted to do on stage. So much in the way that Rugburn is like a multidisciplinary theater company, Stay a While is a multidisciplinary, multi-hyphenate, bizarre birthday play. And so there are a lot of things that happen in Stay a While that typically happen at a birthday party, like beverages and snacks and gifts and song and dance. But then there are a lot of things that happen in this play that don't typically happen at birthday parties. And yeah, that's how we got here.
Oh, that's magnificent. And then, and why Rugburn Theater?
Ooh, why Rugburn Theater? Well, so not long ago, I co-produced Rugburn with two of my dearest friends, Frankie Ferrari and Keating, who I've been working with for over 11 years now here in St. Louis, and who all three of us have been, working for decades in terms of being actors and theater artists. The three of us have been in conversation for a long time about the plays that we want to do, the work that we want to produce, and we just realized, we were like, no one ever tells you that it's your turn. You just have to like assume the mantle and step into leadership. And so the three of us, for many months now, have been meeting regularly, having brunch, and just ideating about like what kind of theater we want to make. And we found that making a new theater company, you basically do one of two things. You either have a really sick name that you just like thought of and we're like, check, we got the theater company name.
Right.
Now we just have to assign a mission and a purpose and values to the name. Or you have to do the real work and be like, well, what is our purpose? What are our mission? What are our values? So unfortunately, we had no success with the first part. So we had to do the second and spent a lot of time just talking about what were hinge formative moments for us as young artists, like that influenced our taste. We all come to this work as multidisciplinarians. Like I come to this work as a vocalist and as an instrumentalist and as an actor and as a dancer. We all have experience in clown and puppetry. So we knew we wanted this company to be able to house a lot of that. And then in one of our conversations, we talked a lot about some of these great experimental theater companies we saw many years ago in our formative years. And Frankie Ferrari was telling a story about seeing one company and saying how daringly these artists moved on stage and how they kind of evoked this question in the heads of all the audience members, like, how on earth are they gonna pull this off? And we were like, move daringly. How will you pull this off? These are things that we want to explore.
Yes.
So we took move daringly, and we were like, well, if you move daringly, maybe you'll fall on the floor, maybe you'll get some scrapes, maybe you'll get some cuts, and maybe you'll get some rug burns. So that's kind of how we got to where we are.
Right. Well, and I would say usually when you do get a rug burn, you were doing something epically awesome before it. And you didn't go in going, I'm going for a rug burn. You go into something epic that doesn't go quite like you thought. But yeah, well, and then in the part of the mantra or the things that on your website, it does say tell loud and rowdy stories that evoke wonder and curiosity, all while begging the question, how will and how can we pull this off?
Yeah.
And that's tremendous. And that route to there is your story. That's, your inciting incident obviously is the crazy thing, but then you got to get there. And how do you do it? And who you become and who do you change to on the way? And that's why we go to theater, to watch somebody face those situations. And Sarah, I'll keep talking. If you want to jump in, please just tell me to shut up, please.
Well, I'm wondering, I don't want to skip over Stay a While, but I do want to respect that we have a plan for a more in-depth conversation there.
Yes.
The after Stay a While, are we looking at the company being predominantly a new works exploration, or are we reinventing a little mix of the two? Do we have plans, or are we seeing where we go?
We do. That's a great question. We have plans. We're hoping to put something together maybe this winter, which we will know more about very, very soon. But in which case, stay tuned for that. But the next big endeavor that I think we'll probably explore is another new work that I am in process of writing right now. So that is my hope for us in the future, is that we're able to produce a little bit of new work. And it might be a while that we stay with the new work, but knowing the three of us and knowing our tastes, you know, each of us has a strong love of Shakespeare and doing some of the classics together. So like there's a world in which we have some sort of reimagined classic work that comes out in the next few years. But for sure, we're focused on some new material in the next few years.
Yeah, very cool. And as long as you're probably wherever your creative juices take you, right? Or if somebody
Yep.
has that moment that goes, I got to tell this story, or I have this story. I have so many things. So, and go ahead.
I noticed that you have co-producers credited, and those are the folks that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
You also have founding ensemble members mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there a plan for there to be a ongoing core ensemble, or are you reinventing your creative team with each production?
It's a great question. My hope is that once people kind of you know, get their own version of a rug burn, they like stay with us forever in perpetuity. That's just like me personally speaking. But I do, Greta and Greta Johnson, who's our choreographer for Stay a While, and Celeste Gardner, who's our stage manager for Stay a While, are both just by extensions being on this inaugural show, like members of the founding ensemble. And my hope is that they, just like Keating and Frankie, like stick with this for the long haul. So I love whatever they want to do. Like I hope they come to us and be a part of producing theater with us. And also, I think you know, Sarah, you and I have known each other for a long time, and like have many mutual friends in a lot of theater circles that do similar work. And I think the beautiful thing about this town is like you can be in the Sate family and the Young Liars family and in the Era family and in all of these families. And then in a way we're all this like kind of beautifully codependent, ridiculous, messy theatrical family all at one time.
The Greater St. Louis Theater Ensemble.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
The Greater St. Louis Codependent Theater Ensemble. I want to see it.
And what I love, and see now this I don't think was the case back when. I think that's what's really changed. Whenever I heard a friend was in a production, I'm like, no way. When I'm going to be there. I can't wait to see it. Whereas I think other people years ago thought of it more as a betrayal, or they would just stick with their people, and it's like, well, I could audition, but I know who they're going to cast because that's who they always cast, kind of thing. Which I think there are relationships where you work over and over, but there are times when you question, why would you cast? Yeah, some of the choices are predetermined, which is a death knell to theater, I think, because you've just lost the creative spark and originality and just a different perspective. Yeah. Okay. So what was the last show you did, Cassidy?
The last show I did was in May of this year. It was called Wild Nights, an Emily Dickinson sleepover play in which we hope to see the face of God at Young Liars. Produced by Young Liars at the Greenfinch Theater and Dive, written by the great Dr. Courtney Bailey.
Fantastic. And I was about to we're gonna have them on too. I'm gonna try to invite them to be on the show soon too. So,
good.
See, the connections are just crazy. And when's the last time the two of you worked together?
That's
true
question.
This is the thing. It's like you start to ask people who've known each other for millions of years, what are all the things we've ever done? And truly, this is going to sound like the most cliche thing in the world, but sometimes you have to go look at the resume and be like, which play did we do? In what year was that?
Well, and there's all sorts of things like I worked the box office for that show, so I wasn't on stage, but
yeah.
I kind of worked with you, or
absolutely.
There's a million ways you can touch the theater community. I love how again, the interconnectedness means that you end up walking into a room and seeing somebody that you didn't know was going to be there, and it's a celebration every day.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is really special about my relationship with Sarah is like the way in which we started this conversation by talking about like new work and how there's so many new plays, and there's really all this space that's being carved out to go hear each other's new plays, to like be a part of these Liz Lerman critical response processes, whether it's Courtney Bailey hosting a brunch at our home where we read plays. But in a way, what I consider those to be some of my most like favorite and special moments about being an artist in St. Louis, because it means that we don't always have to like be in production on a play and then only see each other at the theater. It's that we like weirdly become a part of this like much larger, much more like the spectrum of time gets wider. We get to be a part of like these nascent early readings and in conversation with one another. And those are some of my most like special and dear memories of just like being in rooms with some of the smartest people I know who are just sharing these incredible reflections on new work that's happening.
And from the audience point of view, these actors that you've been seeing just create these indelible roles and do amazing things with their voices, bodies, emotions, talents. It's really, I want everybody to know how insightful and intelligent the approach to so much theater in St. Louis is. It's easy to lose track of that when you're watching like a broad comedy or something, but
right. Yeah.
This is not something that just happens. These rooms where people are working out their logic of a scene or offering input on what could really drive an idea home, or even just saying, I think I might know someone who can get you a live chicken for that. Those are
yes,
every single show.
So true. So true.
And that it's a place where you would even need a live chicken. Like, you know, in my day-to-day life, not something I generally need.
Yeah. Maybe at the theater.
Yeah, go to the theater. There you go. All right. So I want to ask a little more about you, Cassidy, too. Here, let's see. You graduated from Missouri State.
I did. Go Bears.
Yeah, I went there too, but it wasn't called Missouri State then either. Yeah, and so did
Southwest
Kelly.
in those days.
So yeah. Still Missouri. SMSU back then. Yeah. And Sarah was actually her original theater teacher from middle school. Was my wife. That's where we met.
Oh, wow.
The connections are so weird every time in theater. So, well, and then I just knew you as a student who was amazing with Mrs. Schneider, and then here I am on co-hosting a show with you, and you've done theater all this time and are beloved in the community. It's amazing.
My oldest theater relationship is Kelly Schneider.
Yes,
a lot to her.
That is wild. Okay, so let's see. Now, and you got a BFA in acting.
That's right.
Yeah. And now the other thing I wanted to touch on, give us a memory from there, and then I want to touch on one more thing at least.
Oh, memory from my days in undergrad. One of probably the most profound experiences I had in my time in Missouri State was the fall of my senior year. I got to be in a play called Columbinus, which was co-written by, I think, PJ Pepperelli and Stephen Karam. I think this was a show that they did out in DC in the years before I did this show, which would have been 2014, fall of 2014. But it's a beautiful, beautiful play which is essentially about the Columbine school shooting.
Right.
Act 1, you meet 8 characters, 3 women and 5 men, and all of them are high school students, and their names are like essentially high school stereotypes. So you've got like jock, prep, AP, loner, and freak, and then you've got the 3 women, perfect, faith, and rebel. And over the course of Act 1, you see all of these like quintessential American high school experiences, bullying, closeted queerness, all of these different experiences. And then at the end of Act 1, the 2 actors who play freak and loner transform into Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. And Act 2 becomes this very kind of like, dark, but also like poignant, like timeline of like essentially how these 2 young men put together their plan. And it was a beautiful play. I got to play the part of prep. And it was essentially one of the first experiences where I got to feel like I was truly, truly, truly in what an ensemble is meant to be. 8 actors who are all, 2 of whom are definitely carrying like a very different responsibility in the play than the other 6. But a play that is nonetheless just like remarkable and touching and like has a lot of like unexpected humor, but then makes you think a lot about the state of the state of life in America and like what our students experience on a day-to-day basis by going to
Right.
school each day. So that was a big memory, big takeaway.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. And then, and did you write there when you were there? Did you write then also? Have you always been a writer?
No, this is a big first for me. This to stay a while is a big like first in terms of like writing a proper play. We did a lot of like we wrote some like we did some 24-hour play festivals. We wrote some material in like kind of those kind of containers.
Yeah.
But I definitely always loved to write, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. But this is Stay a While is probably a defining moment for me as a writer, where I feel like I can now actually call myself a playwright, and working on this second play of mine makes me feel the same way. So
Yeah. Very cool. Very neat. So tell me about, and I want to, this is another thing I'm hoping to have on the show in the future. You're on the board of directors for the Prison Performing Arts.
That's right. That's right. This is my third year as a director on the board of directors. I proud to serve as the co-president of the board at PPA,
Oh, fantastic.
and get to work really closely with the incredible Ashwini Arora and the incredible Rachel Tibbetts, Tyler White, Eric Satterfield, and all of the other incredible board members at PPA. But it's an incredible organization. It's just an honor to be around.
Yeah. So how is there any poignant story you can share from that, just working with that?
Ooh, a poignant. Yes. I think one of the, here's what I'll say. One of the things in 2022, I got to be in the original production of Bronte's Sister House Party, which is one of Courtney Bailey's big shows.
Mhm.
And one of the really cool things about like the state of artistic affairs at PPA is we get to take shows to facilities across Eastern Missouri that like some of us have like been in or know well and have loved. And recently at the Women's Eastern Reception and Diagnostic Correctional Center in Vandalia, Missouri, the women's prison, they produced Bronte's Sister House Party. And not only was it cool to get to go with Keating, who was the original director, and be there with Rachel, who was in the original show, but it is so special to go see the show and then also be present with Patty Pruitt, who is now released from incarceration and got to go as a guest, and who has maintained her innocence for 40 plus years. So like I say that because being a part of PPA is being a part of it's being a part of like this incredible, beautiful social experiment where we at every turn center people's humanity and prioritize their humanity above all. And while the theater is amazing, everyone will tell you the best part of going to a PPA show is sticking around for the talk back and listening to the artists tell you their stories, answer their questions, and talk about how transformational theater has been for them. So
that's wonderful.
And that Bronte's Sister House Party, for anyone who might have seen that, it was fully adapted for the prison.
That's right.
Setting. It involved more characters with smaller amounts of lines for the people who want to be involved but are less comfortable taking on giant monologues or being on stage the whole time. Yeah. So it's a very thoughtful approach to adapting those works.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. I would not have known that either. Thank you, Sarah. So I desperately want to talk more about your show. We're about past the 30-minute mark, and I don't like to make this too terribly long, but for anybody out there, we promise to have an episode specifically about Stay a While coming up. Before we go, is there any questions you have, Sarah, that we haven't touched on? Besides 100 questions?
I mean, what the last thing Cassidy and I worked on together is one of them, but it's weird.
We got to figure that out, Sarah. Let's go back.
We'll compare back to
$3.
Timeline. Yes. Magnificent. Well, this has been awesome. I've loved finally meeting you kind of in person, Cassidy, but hopefully I'll see you at your show too, and probably again before your show. So that'll be wonderful. I think Rugburn sounds absolutely amazing. I just can't see what you guys produce next and what comes next. And I just want to explore more of that, just how you guys, your vision is what everything theater is to me. Every role I ever did, it was like, ooh, well, I don't want to get in too much into me, but that thing where you're like, I don't think I could do that. And I don't think I can not try.
Yeah.
So you live on that knife's edge and you survive it. And then My story was always, I will never do that again. That was too much. Never do that again. Wait,
Yeah,
they're producing what? When's the audition? Like, it's, why do
totally.
I keep doing this? Yes, yes. So anyway, so what you're saying about the show and to do a one-man show is that's extraordinary. Oddly, Sarah, I don't know if you know this. So Kelly did a show a few years ago, and we've been acting for decades, and that was the scary. I've had all my ensemble around me, and you still do. What you touched on, Sarah, you're the inclusivity of the whole unit, and somebody's selling tickets, and somebody's making the poster, and somebody's taking photographs, and all those people aren't literally on the stage and only are in a part of the process, but that's your ensemble. So I mean, you're never truly by yourself, and yet nobody's going to help you get out of this mess you've just caused. I jumped a page, just gotta figure it out
That's
in
right.
real time while everyone's staring at me. Go team.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's courageous and awesome, and I think that's thrilling. So
Thank
it's
you.
impressive. Yeah, and that you wrote it. So let's just see how many layers of challenge you can have there. But, and then that you guys are producing and going for it. I think it's amazing. So
Thank you.
thank you so much. Make sure if you can, if you'd already like to get tickets for Stay a While, you can get those at the QR code in the corner there. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. This was a blast. This was amazing.
My pleasure.
You brought such wonderful questions because of course I'm me, so my questions go a certain way, and you brought in a whole new thing and just paradigm shift. Great question. Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we need to wrap it up here. A huge thank you to Cassidy Flyn from Rugburn Theater for joining us today to talk about Stay a While and Rugburn and himself, and to our guest Sarah Holt for being part of the conversation. And as always, thank you to everyone watching and supporting St. Louis on Stage and the incredible theater happening throughout our community. Make sure you follow the link and get your tickets for Stay a While, opening September 18th. And hey, until next time, go see a play.